everybody and welcome back to my channel. In this week's video I'm going to be showing you how you can make jewellery using resin and fresh flowers. So here is everything you're going to need to make this. I like to use UV resin and silicone moulds that I found off eBay, and I like to use sterling silver earring hooks and hoops as well to keep it as high quality jewellery as I can possibly make. And you'll also be needing lots of fresh flowers, so I'm going to be using little blue forget-me-nots and also geraniums, because the little petals actually look like hearts when you take a petal out, and also just daisies that have small petals. I wouldn't recommend using larger petaled flowers like roses, as these tend to not fit into the molds very well. So the first thing you're going to want to do before you start actually making the jewellery is preparing all the flowers that you want to use. So this can be kind of time consuming. So as you can see for the little forget-me-not flowers here, I'm gently squeezing the flower with tweezers and then pricking them out by the petal and just preparing them in a little pile, just so when it comes to actually putting them into the resin they're all ready to go. Otherwise, if you start putting resin in and then you're trying to pull flower petals in the same time, the resin might cure and you might end up with a lumpy old resiny flower mess. So I highly recommend taking a little bit of extra time to do this first before you start putting anything into your molds. So as you can see, I have a variety of different jewellery molds, ranging from quite large earrings to smaller ones, and they're really handy because they already have the little jewellery hole in them, so you don't have to drill holes in them afterwards. So I'm going to start making these little moon earrings. The moon mold is probably my favourite mold. And what I like to do first is pour a little thin coat of resin into the mold using a toothpick and just spreading it evenly to get a nice thin even layer. And once you've done that, you can start using your tweezers again and putting in the little tiny flowers and spacing them evenly in the resin. Once you have your flowers positioned as you like them, take your toothpick again and just gently drop the resin onto the flowers. You don't want to pour the resin in at this stage because that'll push the flowers around and you'll have to spend a bit of time wrestling with your toothpick and tweezers to try and put them all back where you wanted them. So I highly recommend just dipping in a little toothpick, taking out one drop at a time and just carefully placing it into the mold, and fill the mold right up to the top. Don't worry about it spilling out because it's unlikely that it'll spill. Just be careful and just really try and fill up the mold one toothpick drop at a time. And so now we're just going to repeat the process and create lots of different little styles of earrings with different flower petals. So for this one, I'm putting in another little thin coat of resin in at the bottom, and we're going to create a little arrangement with a geranium petal. I quite like geranium petals because when you pluck them out they actually look like a little heart shape all on their own. So I used the heart shape of the geranium petal, and I also had some dried flowers, the old dried flowers that I had knocking about, and sort of arranged little, I think it's cow parsley leaves and cow parsley flowers, and sort of arranged them kind of to frame in the little heart in this geranium earring. I also decided to make a little heart and stars using yellow daisy petals. The little daisies were in the garden, so I thought these would be super cute, and the petals are kind of the perfect size for these smaller molds. So this is why it's quite good to, you know, avoid using larger petals, especially if they won't fit, just because they are fresh, they will kind of bounce back and try and pop out of the mold. So you do have to kind of keep pressing them in if they're larger petals. So I highly recommend using either small flowers or smaller flower petals, as they'll just fit nicely into the mold and you won't have to wrestle with them and the resin too much. And finally, the largest flower petal I'm using to create earrings are these sort of ombre white to purple daisy petals. Oh, I think they're so pretty. I love that they sort of have this gradient from white to purple. I think they look so nice, especially when you put them in this little frame earring where it kind of, you know, has an ombre effect all the way around the frame. And I think this looked super nice. So highly recommend daisy petals. They're quite long and narrow and fit into molds very well. If you've seen any of my previous videos about glazing things with resin or using resin, I always like to cure my UV resin outside in daylight. I think this just provides like the most nice and even cure, and you can just leave it outside and go and forget about it if you like. So on a bright sunny day this usually takes between 20 minutes to 30 minutes to fully cure, but just because it has the added flower petals, I like to leave it for 45 minutes, even an hour, just to be really sure. Just don't touch it and just let it sit there in the sun and, you know, go have a wee cup of tea while you wait. Probably the most satisfying part of this whole process is popping the little shapes out of the molds. This is super exciting, and as I mentioned before, the moon is just my absolute favorite one, and it looks so beautiful with these little forget-me-nots. They're just the perfect size for this sort of thing, and they look really cute. I was also really happy with how the geranium arrangement kind of worked out, because it has this sort of flower heart shape at the front, surrounded by little petals, and all the other ones turned out really nice too, so I was quite happy with this little fresh flower experiment. So a common problem I've run into when making these is that there's some slight patchiness on the resin, probably because I just missed a spot maybe when putting in the first layer of resin, but this is quite easily fixed. You just get your toothpick and put on a thin coat of the resin and let it cure in the sun again, and that'll fill in any patches and fix your problem. So now it's time to put the metal onto your jewellery. In this case, I've decided to make earrings. So I'm unlooping one of my little sterling silver loops, putting that through the hole on the shape. I also usually use a second loop just so I can get the shape to sort of hang the right way so that it faces the correct way when it's hanging on your ear. So I usually use 2 little silver loops, and then I attach those together, and then I put on the little sterling silver earring hook, and hey presto, you have some earrings pretty quickly. For me, this is probably my least favorite part of the process, just because I find it really fiddly. I keep constantly dropping the stupid little silver hoops, and it's just so small and fiddly. But actually, it's a pretty quick process. These 6 pairs of earrings probably took me about 30 minutes to put all the little hoops on, and it's really satisfying when it's all done and you have the finished earrings, so it's absolutely worth it, even though it's slightly annoying and I keep dropping things and I stress myself out, but it's fine. And here are the finished earrings. I thought they turned out really, really nice. I love the variety of different flowers that I found around the garden for this, especially the forget-me-nots. They're just my absolute favorite. And if you like these earrings, they'll actually be in my shop tonight, so you can get them in my Etsy shop. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. I make a new video every single week. And yeah, I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye!